So does anyone have plans for tomorrow for the 4th of July? Grilling? Yeah, what else? Going to the lake? Summer camp? What else? What else is anyone doing tomorrow on the 4th of July? Watching fireworks. Okay. Where's the good place to watch fireworks around here? Mystic Lake? You can just be on the road next to it. So today I wanted to tell you a little bit about how I really don't like the 4th of July, and it's because of the fireworks. I am not a huge fan of fireworks. I think that wherever you go to see them, I haven't lived in Shakopee before, so maybe it's different here, but it's always hard to find a parking space, and you have to end up walking really, really far, usually to get to a good place to watch them. And then when they're over, you have to wait in a super jam-packed parking lot. Have you ever had that experience, right? To go home again. And every time I go there and I'm with the kids, trying to find a spot to find fireworks, and when we finally get the lawn chair set up, it always seems like it's really overcrowded and there's lots of sweaty people and on a hot night. And it never fails that when you finally find a place to sit, that someone near you is behaving badly, like using bad words in front of your kids, or maybe they're playing frisbee and they run across your blanket. And then the fireworks never start on time. They're always late. Maybe the sky isn't dark enough, or maybe it's the pyrotechnics guy. He maybe thinks it's funny to see parents with all their kids who keep asking that whiny question, when are they going to start? But then when the fireworks actually start, it's really loud. It always kind of startles me. Do you do that when they start? You kind of jump. But then after a while, after all this experience of craziness in parking lots and all these people around, when you actually watch it, though, it's beautiful. Sometimes even breathtaking to see the vast colors and patterns exploding across the dark night sky. When I read the story of the Transfiguration of Jesus, I kind of imagine it being something like the 4th of July. It was probably a hot, sweaty day in the Middle East, and there were these big crowds of people, right? And they were following Jesus. Last week we talked about the baptism of Jesus, and after he was baptized, he came out of the desert after being tempted by the devil, and then he called his first disciples and began ministry. He healed the sick, and crowds followed him. And then he went up to the mountain where he did his Sermon on the Mount, or sometimes we call it the Beatitudes, and crowds were following him. And then Jesus restored a man who was plagued with demons, and the whole town came out to greet him. And then, healing after healing, a paralyzed man, a girl who was dead, the crowds came. Everywhere that Jesus went, there were crowds. And not too long before the story of the Transfiguration, there was a feeding of 5,000 people, then 4,000 people. Can you imagine what a crowd would look like that was that big? Probably worse than a traffic jam of people waiting to see lights on the 4th of July. Can you imagine how many people were there and what it would be like for Jesus to just want to sit and find a place to pray, or to sit and to be able to teach his disciples with all that commotion? So Jesus leaves the crowds of people on that hot day, and he goes up on the mountain with Peter and James and John, the brother of James. And this is where Jesus had this transformation. He's transfigured. His face was shining like the sun, and his clothes were a dazzling white. And God, in what I imagine a loud, booming voice, says, "This is my Son, the beloved, with whom I'm well pleased. Listen to him." Can't you almost picture it as something similar to the 4th of July? This light show of Jesus dazzling in bright white high above the crowds, revealing his glory, letting the disciples know he is truly the Son of God. I could almost see all these crowds of people gathering, like they'll gather tomorrow night, right? At Mystic Lake or Canterbury to see all those lights. People wanting to see what was happening. But sometimes our imaginations get us into trouble. A few weeks ago, we talked about Epiphany. Do you remember that, some of you? And when we talked about Epiphany, we talked about the three kings. And how the three kings is never actually in the Bible. It never says three kings. It only talks about wise men. But it's because we add stuff to the story. And I know that and I know other people, I've heard it too, when we talk about the Transfiguration, we assume that it was a big public event. All these people, all these crowds, witnessing before their very eyes Jesus in his glory, the Son of God. It was a spectacular event, and when something is amazing, we need a crowd. Like maybe going to a Katy Perry sold-out concert, right? If you don't know who Katy Perry is, she's the one who rode into the Super Bowl at the halftime show on a big Tiger a few years ago. And so we're going to talk about her a little bit later in the sermon. But she has a really good song that's about fireworks that's good for Transfiguration and for 4th of July weekend. But if we read the story really carefully, there's no crowds like at a big concert. There was no one to witness this spectacular event, but 3 disciples of Jesus. This amazing experience where Jesus was being transformed, where God spoke, only 3 people witnessed it. That doesn't seem right, does it? If God was trying to reveal God's self through Jesus, wouldn't it make sense to have the 5,000 or even the 4,000 or those crowds from the healings there? But it is done in private with just 3 disciples, no crowds. Jesus doesn't want others to see him in this state or know about it, at least not yet. And this isn't the first time. Many times when Jesus healed, he told the others not to tell anyone. He wanted to keep it private. It was as if he wasn't ready to reveal who he was beyond that small group of disciples. Though we may want him to proclaim from the mountaintop for all to hear that he is the Son of God, it makes sense that he doesn't reveal himself to the masses quite yet. Think about it for a minute. Think about yourself. How many people know who you really are? Who in your life knows your innermost secrets? Who knows how you tick? What makes your heart sing? What drives you crazy? Who knows the depths of your soul? For me, I think the only person that maybe knows most of those things is my husband. It seems like we may only have a few people in our own lives who really, truly know us inside and out. Maybe it's a spouse or a longtime friend or a sibling, but usually not very many people know who we really are. It's like we need to hide who we are because maybe we're afraid of what people will think of us if they really know us. When I was living in Alaska, one of my internship duties was leading a youth group because the pastor was from Germany and he was a theologian, and he said on my first day, he said, "Kids aren't my thing, you do the youth group." And that year I had a lot of fun with those kids, and there were 2 girls in the youth group, and they were like my shadow. They followed me everywhere that I went. They would help me before church and after church. They would go grocery shopping with me. They would want to go out to eat with me. We would go to walk on the beach together. Everywhere I went, they followed me. And I didn't mind because they were sweet girls, and I also had a nagging suspicion that both of their home lives weren't great, and they needed a safe place. But they never ever mentioned anything to me about their home lives until the day I was due to go back to seminary for my last year. They came to my apartment at 7 a.m., which gave me a clue that something was wrong. We have someone here from Alaska, right? 7 a.m. is really early? Yeah, it's like 4 a.m. our time. No one is ever up that early in Alaska. And one of them came to my door. Both of them came to my door, and one of them was sobbing. And she told me about all these deep problems in her family due to substance abuse. I had spent every day with her that year, and she waited till I was leaving to tell me, because it was safer than revealing who she was, who her family was. She wanted to keep it hidden. Why do we do that? Why do we need to hide who we really are? It seems even the human side of Jesus wanted to keep things hidden. Maybe for Jesus it was about timing, not revealing himself too soon, since he had predicted his death and resurrection to his disciples. So maybe there was some kind of divine timeline that needed to take place. But maybe he was scared, or maybe he was afraid. So Jesus showed some of his disciples, not all of them, just the 3, who he really was. And there were some things that pointed out to everyone who Jesus was, like the healings that he had done. But Jesus also kept things hidden. He told them when those healings took place, when he was transfigured on top of the mountain to those 3 disciples, he told them not to tell anyone. Some things about him were hidden and some were revealed. Doesn't that say a lot about who we are? We expose some parts of ourselves to the world and to others, but we keep other parts of ourselves hidden. We are afraid to show who we really are to the world. But with God, we don't have to hide who we are. We can fully reveal the depths of our souls, our quirky personalities, all the things that we're proud of, and all the things that we are ashamed of. And we can do that because of what happened on that mountain. God repeated the words spoken at Jesus' baptism, at our baptisms. Maybe so we could hear them a little bit louder. You are my Son, the beloved, with whom I'm well pleased. And those words mean that we are God's children, and we are loved, and God is pleased with us, no matter what we keep trying to keep hidden from others. We can't hide things, and we don't need to hide things from God. Jesus revealed his glory as the Son of God who died out of great love for us, so that we can also be transfigured, so we can experience God's glory where we are made new. We don't need to hide because God made us who we are and is pleased with who we are. There will always be things that we want to hide from others, that we want to hide from God. But God loves us despite our jagged edges. And not only loves us, is pleased with us, and helps us each day to become new in Jesus Christ. So remember when I mentioned Katy Perry earlier, right? She's a singer, and she has a song called Firework. It's a good 4th of July song, but I think it has to do something with the transfiguration. The lyrics of her song says, "Do you ever feel like a plastic bag drifting through the wind, wanting to start again? Do you ever feel so paper thin, like a house of cards, one blow from caving in? Do you ever feel already buried deep, 6 feet under screams, but no one seems to hear a thing? Do you know that there's still a chance for you, because there's a spark in you?" So think about all those things that trouble you. All the things that you want to bury, that you want to keep hidden, and know that nothing is ever hidden from God. Nothing is ever hidden from God. Just as we are, God gives us a new chance day after day because we are loved. Each new day is a chance for us to be transfigured, to be transformed by God's glory and love. Amen.